Hi, I'm Evan. I work in marketing for Cisco-Eagle. Welcome to Shop Talk. Today we're discussing cantilever rack specification. There are many options when it comes to cantilever rack types, sizes, and capacities. Let's discuss how you can specify the right rack for your application. First, let's determine column spacing, which is simply the space between rack columns. The length of what you are storing usually dictates column spacing. Each column has one arm that supports the load in conjunction with arms on other columns. Columns are spaced center to center. Your rack must have enough arms to prevent the load from sagging between them. Let's say your load is 144 inches long. To find the initial column spacing, divide the load length by 2. In our example, that's 72 inches. Now place two wood blocks on the floor 72 inches apart, measured between the centers of the blocks. Place your load centered on the blocks. For this example, the load overhangs the blocks by 36 inches on each side. If the load sags between the blocks, add a third block on the floor and divide the load by 3. In this case, place the blocks 48 inches apart. Put the load centered back on the blocks. For this example, that leaves a 24-inch overhang on each side. If there is no sagging, this column spacing works. If you still experience sagging, add another block of wood on the floor and repeat the test until there is no load sagging between blocks. For our example, we will use 3 columns spaced 48 inches apart. Now that we know the column spacing, let's specify the proper arms for the rack. The length of the arms should fit completely below the load with no overhang. Typically, arms are available from 12 inches to 72 inches long in 6-inch increments, with custom and specialty sizes available. Let's specify 48-inch arms this time. The next step is to find each arm's load capacity. Assume the load weighs 1,500 pounds. If you are using 2 arms beneath the load, divide the load weight by 2. If the load is being carried by 3 arms, divide the weight by 3 to find the weight carried by each arm. For our example, 1,500 pounds divided by 3 gives us 500 pounds carried per arm. Let's look at the arm types. If you're storing plywood, lumber, sheets, or other flat materials, use a straight arm. For round loads like steel rods, tubes, or pipes, I recommend tilt arm. Unbundled pipes could roll off straight arms, but with tilted ones, the load rests against the column. As an added safety measure, you can order arms with sockets welded to the ends that accept a removable pipe. This pipe blocks load from rolling off the arms. Sockets can be added to straight or tilted arms. Another option is to have a lip welded or bolted to the end of your arms. In either case, you must specify the lip height. The next thing to decide is arm spacing, the vertical distance between arms on a column. Arm spacing includes load height, lifting clearance, and the height of the arms. If your arms have lips, the clearance must be tall enough for the load to clear them when lifted. Let's plug in some numbers to our example. We'll use a load height of 24 inches, 6 inches of clearance, and 4 inches of arm height. That adds up to 34 inches arm spacing. Since all cantilever racks have prefabricated slots, arm spacing must be divisible by your rack's adjustment increment. In this case, that's 3 inches. In our example, the calculated arm spacing of 34 inches divided by 3-inch increments is 11.33 inches. The arm spacing must be adjusted to the next largest available arm spacing, in this case, 36 inches. We also need to know the height of the base. Typical heights are 8, 10, 12, and 14 inches. We will use 10 inches for the example. Now, let's discuss rack heights, levels, and arms. You need to know how many storage levels you would like to have. In our example, we want 4 arm levels. Since you can store on the rack base, this gives you 5 levels of storage. Multiply the number of arm levels by the arm spacing we just calculated. That provides the dimension from the top of the base to the top of the last arm. 4 times 36 inches equals 144 inches. Now, add the base height to that 144 inches. 144 inches plus 10 inches equals 154 inches from the floor to the top of the last arm. The rack column must extend above the last arm level at least the same height of the base. In this case, that's 154 inches plus 10 inches for a calculated column height of 164 inches. Column heights are generally available from 96 inches to 360 inches in 24-inch increments. Our calculated column height of 164 inches is not evenly divisible by 24 inches, so we will round up to next highest 24-inch increment. In this case, the column height needs to be at least 168 inches. Confirm you have sufficient ceiling height for this column size to fit below the rafters, lighting, sprinklers, and HVAC ducting. In addition, verify that your forklift can lift the load taller than the top arm level. Make sure you allow sufficient clearance between the load on the last arm level and any ceiling obstructions. The next step is to calculate the rack column's maximum load. We know that each arm carries 500 pounds. Multiply 500 by 4 arms. In this instance, each column is carrying 2,000 pounds. If this will be a double-sided cantilever rack, double the load. 2,000 pounds times 2 equals a 4,000 pound load on each column. Post the load capacity on your racks and make sure not to exceed it. The next step is to find the base depth, which is the length of your rack base. The depth must be no less than the length of the rack arms, but can be longer. For stability and safety, always anchor your racks. Consult rack supplier recommendations for the exact needs of your rack. Cantilever racks must be anchored to a concrete pad. Asphalt and dirt are not suitable surfaces for heavy load-bearing racks. Now let's look at some options you can add to your rack. As discussed earlier, you can add a socket and removable pipe to the end of the base. This option includes the pipe, bracket, and a plastic cap for the pipe. If you are storing large rolls of paper or spools of wire, an axle saddle can be added to the arms to hold rolled materials. For outdoor cantilever racks, roof brackets can be added to the rack to create a roof structure. Decking is especially useful where you need to store items of different sizes on the same level, such as furniture storage. Decking lets you store sofas, chairs, and end tables on the same level. Saddles can be provided on the arms for installing wood decking. Wire decking may also be used. Steel pan decks can be used to contain smaller items or hardware. With this information, you can write the specifications for the rack you need. You will need to specify each row of cantilever racks you want to install. Here's what to remember. Your load characteristics, length, weights, shape, the number of columns in each row. Column spacing from center to center. Column height and the weight of the total load on the column. The base depth. The number of arms per column. The load carried by each arm. If this row has arms on one side or both sides. Arm style, straight or tilted. Any accessories. You should note any special conditions such as installation in a seismic zone, installation outside, environment, or temperature extremes. Thank you for watching Shop Talk. If you have questions about cantilever rack, you can call us toll-free at 888-877-3861. Download our free guide to cantilever racks, videos, pricing, specifications, and much more at www.cisco-eagle.com/cantilever.